people that want an opportunity. Because as I share my story, you will find how difficult it was for me. How many gatekeepers there were not allowing me for greatness. How many haters told me to go the wrong direction. How many people doubted me. How many people wished that I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So I'm doing the opposite. Making sure the doors are fully wide open, and it's up to you to make that decision. Because I don't want someone from my community to say, man, Eddie never did anything for us. He never helped us. He got up there and made all this money, and then he went to live downtown. I want the story to be like, you know what? This man never missed a career night. He empowered, inspired his community, and he helped thousands of people, not just in Chicago, but now across the country become uber successful. So, my story really quickly, because I know it's running late. So I was born in Mexico City. I've been telling the whole world I immigrated here illegally at the age of 5, but actually I immigrated illegally here at the age of 3. And I was telling the whole world I crossed illegally through Texas. That was a lie, because I fact-checked with my parents, and actually through San Diego. And then I've been telling the world that my mom stood behind while my dad kept coming back and forth. But again, had another conversation with my dad and my mom this time together, and they said, no, we both left. So we left you with grandma. So, just our story is incredible. Similar to Good Child, we moved to Chicago, 1-bedroom apartment. We didn't live in a bungalow, so you were living in luxury, but not with that many people. I was in a 1-bedroom apartment with 11 other people. 1 bathroom. In a apartment complex full of cockroaches. I've never said this story, but I remember in the middle of the night, if you ever woke up, go to the kitchen, there would be like 1,000 cockroaches, and it was just normal. That is my story. Both my parents, uber poor. Being poor in America is one thing. I'm sure it's terrible, but being poor in Mexico, third world country, is a whole different story. Both my parents are homeless. It's funny because at the national conference in San Diego, I got up on stage with all these CEOs, and I was telling my story about how my parents are homeless. After the conference, there's probably like 600 people there, and after the conference, my mom was like, Miko, why are you telling people I'm homeless? I wasn't homeless. And then I was like, man, you know what, maybe I made a mistake. I'm like, Mom, I thought you said you were homeless. Didn't you tell me that when you were 6, 7 years old, you would be at 2, 3 in the morning looking for an unlocked car so that you could find a place to sleep? She's like, yes. Didn't you tell me that the version of DCFS, but over there, would chase you down because they would catch you, they would put you like in an orphanage, and then you would escape through a window, and then you would just want to be in the streets? Like, yes. I said, Mom, that is the definition of being homeless. So, somehow my parents met. They had my brother, and then they weren't ready to take care of a child. My parents had enough money Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to feed my brother, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday they didn't have money, so they would have to go ask the community. My dad's vision was like, okay, if I have a baby, he can be breastfed. But then my brother was born premature. He could not latch on to my mom's breast. So that went out the window. Then we're Irish twins. So what that means is that my parents had another one fairly quickly that my brother and I share the same age for 10 days. So then now imagine, you are as a father, for all the men that are here, you can't take care of one, you're having another one. That's when my dad left. He went to the US. He worked for a full year. This is probably the first time I'll tell the story, probably very factual. He traveled to Chicago, worked a full year, traveled back to Mexico. And when I mean travel, he's not taking American Airlines. He's literally doing the whole illegal thing, going to Chicago, working a full year, and then crossing back into Mexico, spending 1 or 2 weeks. Did that for 2, 3 years, and then my mom came, left us with grandma, and then finally said, hey, it's time to bring my kids back to the US, or bring us over here. And that's how we crossed through San Diego, the 1-bedroom apartment. I grew up in the north side, then my parents finally bought a house in Cicero. And every single day I went to school, my dad said this. And I haven't heard that much till recently with the whole thing that's going on, but my dad would tell me this: if you do not do good in school, you will be deported. Not just on Mondays, but every single day. And I was like, damn, I gotta do good, because if not, I'm gonna get deported. That's what I would think as I'm walking to school. And you know, to all the helicopter parents out there, my dad and mom never drove me to school. We would have to walk 1.5 to 2 miles to school. I remember there was a blizzard like this much snow. You couldn't see, like, my people from Chicago, when you can't see more than 4 feet, that's a blizzard. When snow's going sideways, and my parents were like, go to school. We were the only kids that went to school because the school was closed. Nobody was there, and then we had to walk back. That's how strict my parents were. But anyways, you know, I talk a lot about sacrifice. My parents never sat me down and told me, hey, this is the way you run a business. This is the way you should be as a man. This is the way that hard work ethic. They just showed me. You know, 8th grade graduation, my dad didn't go to my graduation. How many parents here would never do that? You know, but it's not, I don't hate my dad. I love my dad, because I know that he was out there working hard for what? To make sure that I never went hungry. To make sure that I had a roof over my head. And I'll tell you this, I think this young lady asked, and I went to Loyola the other day. I said, hey, is there any trust fund babies here? Because, you know, it's a private Catholic school. Maybe there's 1 or 2 here. But unfortunately, I don't think there's any trust fund babies here. So we have to work hard if we want to change our lives. We have to go out there and want what we want. If not, whoever is out there will give you whatever they think you deserve. So if you want to change your life, you can't blame your husband, your wife, you can't blame your brother, you can't blame the government, you can't blame the neighborhood, you blame yourself. Because if you want success, then sacrifice. If you're at every single family party, then you're not building your business. If you're at every single vacation, your girlfriends ask you, hey girl, let's go to Cancun, then guess what? You're not building your business. Every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to an opportunity. The only reason I'm up here, think about this. I'm the son of 2 homeless people, and I'm immigrant, born in Mexico, came here, and now I'm the CEO of the fastest growing real estate company in America. How does that make sense? So no one gave, my dad never said, hey son, here's $1 million, because my dad didn't have $1 million to give me. I was accepted to DePaul University. Northeastern University wasn't the first school of choice. It was the only choice because that was the public university I could go to. That's the only school my parents can afford. But maybe my life would have been a little different if my parents would have been able to afford for me to go to DePaul. I got accepted to DePaul, which is an amazing school here, but I couldn't, there was no way for us to go. So then I was like, I went to Northeastern, and I was like, man, this ain't for me. This world is just moving too slow. 5 years of school, maybe make 50,000, whatever that. I said, no, this ain't for me. I was in school bored out of my mind. I wanted greatness, and you know that the whole poverty taught me one thing. I didn't want my kids to be poor. I saw my parents fight almost every single night about money. I'm like, you know what? I will never have kids, and till I'm okay. I will never get married till I'm financially stable. So my dream, my why, you cannot change my mind. You can't distract me. My friend David can't come here and convince me to shift from my focus. My focus was very clear. And understand, if you take anything from me today, is this: if you don't have a why in your life, why you're doing something, you will fall for anything. You will say, oh, life is too hard, I'm gonna quit, I'm gonna go do something else. You know what? I met the love of my life and he doesn't want me to do this, so I'm gonna do something else. Hey, you know what? The sun didn't come out today, so it's not time to go to work. You need to have a why. What is your why? Why are you here today? And my why was black and white. I was never gonna be poor again. I would never see my kids. They would never have to worry about food. They would never live in a bad neighborhood. My kids would grow up in one of the nicest neighborhoods wherever we decide to live. My kids, when I have kids, I will travel. I will hire a whole squad of teachers because we will travel whenever we want. I will care less about a school calendar. The teachers will travel with us. And why? Because that's why I've been working so hard. That's why I've been investing, sacrificing, working hard, left and right, investing, being uber focused on my business because I wanted greatness. So then at 21, I dropped out of college, got my license. In 10 days, I took my license, boom, passed it. I was smart. I was like a sponge. You put me in a class, I learned, okay, great, boom. Took the exam, and I thought, just like I forgot who, I thought I made it. Oh, I got my license, I'm gonna be good, people are gonna wanna hire me. And I went to 13 or 16 different brokerages in that street that you just went by, and nobody would hire me. The biggest brands, independents, they just wouldn't. This was November of 2006, and people were just busy making so much money. I had friends in the real estate industry that would say, you know what? I have a Mercedes that matches one of my suits for every single day I go to work. I had friends, you know, like those weird, I don't know if y'all have seen, maybe they don't have them anymore. Back in the day, you would see like the Panther tables and like these really odd furniture. I'm like, who buys that? Well, I had a friend that would buy all that stuff because they just had too much money, and instead of them investing the money, they were just spending it. So then I was like, man, so finally 15 people said no. The 16th broker says, Eddie, no one will train you better than I will. And as I shook that man's hand, I said, well, no one's trying to hire me. Well, I'll tell you this, to the realtor's surprise, this guy never inspired me, empowered me, or trained me. Actually, when I got my first transaction, it was a check, not for $49,000, but not bad. My first check was $16,285. And when I started real estate at the age of 21, I had a net worth of $5,000. It took me 6 months to sell my first house, and what happens? Boom, 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 boom. I was down to pennies. Pennies. But you know, for us realtors, they understand this. When you close a deal, you already spent that money. You're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, et cetera, et cetera. So in my mind, it's like, okay, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I go to the brokerage just like she did, you know. I went and took the check. I was very proud, very excited, young man, like 21, and the broker's like, I'm not gonna pay him. So I didn't come from a family of attorneys that could say, hey, you know, here's your attorney, you're gonna do this. I didn't know that the association would help me. I didn't know that the state would help me. So what did I do as an ignorant 21-year-old? I left that brokerage and went to work at a different brokerage. And I had a big choice to make. Do I quit? This, you know, I could have told the world, like, this ain't for me. And that's why mindset is so important. Half this room will probably quit. You know, most of our parents will tell us, go get a job that pays you. Because our parents only know one thing. You work 40 hours, you get paid. You work 40 hours, you get paid. They don't understand the concept that you have to work sometimes for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, hoping you close a deal. And once you start making $50,000 a house and you sell 100 of those, then you just destroyed it, right? But till then, you need to work hard. You need to build your brand. You need to build your business. So anyways, I left the brokerage, and my why was so solid. I was like, hey, this is just another bump in the road. I went to work for a different brokerage, a brokerage of 60 people, and I became the top producer. Started selling 30 houses, 50 houses, 104 families a year, which is a lot of money, especially when I didn't have a team. The average realtor in America sells 7 homes a year. I sold 104 with no team. No assistant, no TC, no listing agent, no buyers. It was just strict work. If you were to put me back in the game right now, I probably would sell, if someone would hire me. Now anyone would hire me probably, right? Like I'll call any brokerage, hey, you want to hire me? Probably sell 200-300 houses, and that's all I focus on. I don't care what market. You want to hire me, Tanya? I'll make you some money. But I sold 104 houses, and then I started making a lot of cash. So what did I start doing? I didn't go buy a fancy car. I didn't buy a Rolex. I didn't go buy Louis Vuitton for a girl. I invested my money. Started buying houses in cash. One house, remember my first time I bought a house, it was $34,500. I had maybe $34,800 in the bank. He said he's not the risk guy. I bet on America. I said, we live in the greatest country in the world. I didn't care that the recession was going on. I said, man, I bet you if I buy this house, I can fix it, sell it for a profit. And even though I only had $300 left after I bought the house to take my girl out to eat, put gas in my car, buy more business cards, eat, I still said, man, you know what? I'll sell another house, I'll do the roof. I'll sell another house, I'll do the windows. I'll sell another house. You know, I was so scared that someone was going to break into my house that I bought for $34,000 that I would sleep in that house with no water, no toilet, no heat. I remember my heart was broken when the house flooded. 4 feet, 5 feet of water in the basement. And I was devastated. I thought the world was ending. And I remember I was out there trying to take the water out in a 5 gallon bucket. And the neighbors were laughing. They're like, just let it flood and the water eventually would go. And I was like, no, this is my entire life savings. And eventually after I got tired, I said, you can't fight Mother Nature. So I let it flood completely and then it unflooded and then I went back to work. That was my sacrifice, my life. I sold that house, made $150,000. I remember I went to Chase Bank and back then you would drop off the checks in person. And there was this beautiful girl at the teller stand. And she's like, oh my God, did you win the lotto? And then I said, no. I said, that's hard work. And she deposited my check for $150,000. And I was 21, 22 years old. And then I bought 2 more houses. And then I sold those and I bought 4. And then I bought 6. And I kept building, investing. Then I built a construction company. And then in May of 2012, I opened Realty of Chicago. Not because I wanted to, not because I had a dream, but because the same kids in my neighborhood that were poor as me, they started seeing me on social media, building, showing what I'm doing, and they said, hey, I want that same opportunity as you. So I said, get your license and go work for a brokerage. And they're like, no, we want to work for you. So then I said, okay. So I opened Realty of Chicago, started with 0 agents. Then went to 5, went to 30, went to 100, went to 200, went to 250, 300, 350. And I remember during this time, I didn't have a dad or I didn't have a friend. I didn't have someone smarter than me to say, hey, bro, like, how do we build this? It was always me that had to come up with decisions, always me that had to invest the money, always me that had to figure out a solution to a problem. And then I became the 11th largest real estate company in Chicago. Closed $4 billion, 12,000 houses sold. And by the way, Alicia sold $4 billion, 13,000 houses. I put my head down. I never went to an award ceremony. I tried to stay away from love. I uber focused on my business, uber focused on myself. And then I'm 40 years old right now. There's fake news going around that my birthday was today. It was not today. Right? So I'm still 40. But 2 years ago, I told myself, hey, I'm 38, I'm pretty successful, and I think it's time for me to settle down. My goal of making some money and having stability and being a business person, I think I got that. So I said, okay, you know what, I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna empower my leaders, and I'll make sure that, hey, you guys send me a check once in a while. I was finishing building this office. This office is 27,000 square feet, costing about $8 million in cash. I was the construction company, the designer, the architect. The reason why everything, literally everything is where it's at is because of me. The reason why this is black, the lights, every single detail. The fridges, the stoves. When I mean everything, every single piece. When you go to my private office, why there's 81 can lights, 3 inches, is because I wanted it that way. The reason why there's an elephant is because I wanted that elephant there. So I'm very passionate, very, just very detailed. And I was going to retire, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, buy a house in the mountains, call it a day. I never wanted to be the richest person in the world. I just wanted to have enough. And then I had this crazy dream I've been told to emphasize that I was sleeping pillow 2 in the morning. I had this dream, woke up, and it said Realty of America. And for a while, I had this thought in the back of my mind, hey, I'm already mentoring realtors and broker owners across the country. And they're always asking me, why don't you open in my market? And I was like, God, I don't know how to do a national company. I was like, how does Realty of Chicago grow across the country? It doesn't. And then when I had Realty of America, I was like, man, I woke up at 2 in the morning, went on GoDaddy, that's where you buy domains, and I found realtyofamerica.com available for $18,000. And since I don't have the code to that, you know what I did? This is so crazy. This is why this is destiny. Louis, stand up. I called this man at 2 in the morning. Where's BNA? Somewhere back there. So I call him at 2 in the morning. His phone is on silence. But thankfully, his phone was upside up, or look at the screen up. And his partner, they're asleep together. The light must have woke him up, probably woke her up, and she was like, who's calling you at 2 in the morning? And then Louis is like, oh, it's Eddie. And she probably like, no, they know Eddie, that's a Maria calling. So actually I have a seat for you right there. So anyway, I'm sure she's like, hey, answer the call. And then Louis is like, okay. And I was like, hey bro, what's up? I was like, man, I'm calling so late, so sorry, 2 in the morning. I never call him that late. I respect your time, but this was just something so big. And I said, hey bro, give me the code to GoDaddy. And he says, what do you want to buy? I said, I'm just trying to buy something. He said, you know what, give me, I'll buy it in the morning. I said, no, I gotta buy it now. Give me 5 minutes. I'll wake up and I'll buy it for you. I said, no, I gotta buy this myself. What's the code? Gives me the code because it had to be super private. Real estate is a cutthroat business. If anyone got word that I was gonna close my company down, they would have been out after my agents. I knew that would happen. So no one can know. He gave me the code. I finally called Chase because they didn't want to approve my debit purchase of $18,000. Who buys a real estate domain for $18,000 at 2, 3 in the morning? So finally, after telling Chase, like, yeah, this is me, approved. I bought realtyofamerica.com for $18,000. Then at 8:01 in the morning, I couldn't sleep. I called my next person, which is Mark Anthony Dimas. At the time, he was the #1 realtor in the country for 2 years in a row. So the average realtor sells how many houses? 7. This man in 2022 sold 3,200 homes in 12 months. $971 million. You sold $600 million in your career? $600 million in 32 years. This guy sold in 12 months. $971 million. I remember he called me once and said, hey bro, I just made $1 million in 4 days. We're talking about 40,000, you're talking about 60. This guy made $1 million in 4 days. So anyway, so I was like, man, if I'm gonna build this, because I was already planning, like, hey, you know what? Like, to me, my life has always been, and people usually find this funny. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna work really hard, build a business, don't know what business, but I'm sure I'll be successful. And then eventually I'll get married really quickly, have a family, call it a day. So it was already my vision, my plan. And then I had this thing like, man, if I'm gonna hold off on getting married, if I'm gonna hold off on having a family, this dream has to be massive. So I'm gonna go talk to the #1 realtor in the country. Called Mark Dimas at 8:01 in the morning. Had not talked to him for a year and a half, and I said, hey, what's up, bro? He said, hey, what's up? I said, bro, you got a new baby. You built a massive house in Houston. You're building a house on a mountain in Mexico, bro. I'd love to meet with you and meet the baby. And this guy's not even Mexican, and he owns more land than most Mexicans. And he's like, yeah, come in whenever you want. I said, bro, I'll be there tomorrow. One key lesson in your life, no matter if you do this or you do anything else, time kills deals. Time kills deals. If you're gonna do something, just like how she said, don't wait 36 years. If I would have waited, that dream would have died. They said the brightest ideas and the biggest dreams are in the cemetery, because there's so many people that died with their dreams and their visions because they didn't have the will or the courage to go after them. So I flew into Houston, Texas. Thing lands. I'm talking to Mark. Tell me about your vision, your goal. What do you plan on doing? What does $1 billion agent do? And he's like, he shows up in huaraches, shows up with this purse thing, shows up in his shirt. I remember he picked me up in his Bentley. He's like, hey, Pep, like, you want all my suits? Tom Ford, Versace suits? Like, you can have them. I'm not going to use them no more. Because when he sold 3,200 homes, he was living in Mexico. He's what you call a 7th level team. Doesn't go to the office. It's just a factory. His biggest month, he closed 780 homes. Most realtors will never close that in their career. And then I remember I giggled inside. I said, "Nah, you're gonna need those suits." But I didn't say that. So finally we sit down. I said, "Hey, what's your vision? What's your goal?" He's like, "You know what, Eddie? I'm gonna build the biggest team in the world. I'm gonna sell 30,000 houses in 1 year. I'm gonna make $125 million in 1 year." That's why when people say you gotta hang out with the right people. If you're hanging out with a bunch of people that are hanging out at the bar, at the club, you're doing yourself a disservice. You want to change your life? Start hanging out with people that are more successful than you. If you don't know one, find one. So when I hang out with a guy that says he wants to make $125 million cash in 1 year, I need to hang out with this guy. And once he told me that, I was like, man, my dream is too small because his dream is too big. And again, I almost quit on myself there. I could say, oh, that's cool. Let's hang out with the baby and then I'll go back to Chicago. But I said, nah, I got to do this. So I said, hey, brother, so the reason why I came to Houston is because I want to tell you about my dream, my vision. I said, you've seen what I've done in Chicago. I built the 11th largest real estate company. We give back to our community. Like, we have an incredible culture. And to build a business in Chicago is not easy. And then he says, man, I love what you built. I said, man, well, I want to build it national now. I said, with you together, we can build this and go nationwide. There's not many people that won't take a meeting with me and you. He asked me 3 questions. Will it have rev share? Will it have equity? And will it go public? And I said, yes, yes, and yes. He's like, I'm in. And this is the type of guy that shoots from the hip. So I said, hey, bro, you understand that you have to close your company? He says, I understand that. He's like, you know what? At my door, it's always been my name. I've never worked for anybody else for 30 years. But this is the first time I'm willing to do it. Little did I know that he had been flying across the country, interviewing the biggest real estate companies, because he was looking for a platform to build his big dream of 30,000 houses. And then, there's a saying that says like, hey, all things being equal, I'm not going to destroy this, but something about if they're your friend, they want to work with you. And he said yes, took me back to the airport, bear hugged me, said, I'm in. And then I was like, man, this guy, is he like just telling me this because he's my friend? And as I was flying to Chicago, I was like, you know what? Maybe he just said yes because he just wants to be nice. You know how when your friend's like, yeah, girl, let's go to Vegas, but then they don't show up? We all know those people, right? David? But no, he sent me a voice message, like super pumped up. You're going to change, man, you're changing my life. I'm so excited. We're going to do this. So I was like, damn, I just opened my mouth and I closed $1 billion agent. And then it started hitting me. Reality set in that you know what? That means I have to close my company. The company that I wouldn't sell, the company that I built from scratch. All my friends are here. It's like, to me, this wasn't work. I literally come into this beautiful office and hang out with my friends. It's like a club. And I get paid really well for it. I said, why would I want to sell this, close this? And then I said, you know what? I got to talk to somebody else that doesn't know me, that hasn't had dinner with me, that hasn't met my family. I haven't met their wife. I haven't slept at their house, and that does big business. So I saw this guy on Instagram. He did 100 million that year. This last year, he did 115 million. So I called Vic. I actually DM'd him, and I said, hey, Victor, give me your cell phone. He gives me a cell phone. I said, hey, what's up, brother? I'm building a big office in Chicago. I heard that you work at the HQ for this really big office. Can I go tour it? He said, come on in. It's a white vanilla box, but come whenever you want. I flew in the next day. So that's when I learned that Texas was really big. Because one day I go talk to someone in Houston. The next day I'm going back to Texas, but going to Austin, Texas. And I talked to this guy, and we spoke for 13 hours. I said, hey, I'm closing my company down. Mark Demus is closing his company down. We're joining forces. We're launching a national company. And I want to know if you will leave KW after 13 years. Number one realtor at that office, top 100 in the entire network out of 170,000 agents. And he asked me a ton of questions. We spoke till like 2 a.m. And I thought he wanted to go to my room because he didn't leave me alone. And then finally he's like, I remember I told him like, hey bro, like it's 2 a.m. You want to go to my room? What's going on? And he says, starts laughing. He's like, no, I'm in. I'll leave KW. That's when I knew that this had legs. Anyways, we launched September 13th. We've been open for 12 months and maybe 3 weeks. We closed almost $3 billion in business, almost 7,800 houses, opened 18 states, onboarded 2,430 agents. By all metrics, we are the fastest growing real estate company in history. We hired these incredible executives from some of the biggest real estate companies. We have zero investor money, and we're profitable, over 7 figures in cash in the bank. We're the hottest thing right now. People are reaching out to us all the time, trying to do partnerships, and it all started from here. So going full circle, you guys have a decision today. Y'all came for whatever reason, maybe because your mom told you to come, which is a bad reason. Maybe you came because you're tired of working your job. You know, before real estate, I used to make $35K a year, and I thought I was doing good. You know, and I'll tell you that real estate has changed my life. And if I can pay it forward, is I'm opening doors, being as transparent as possible, that if you want to make it in this country, this is probably the last career you can literally, it's a 7-day class. I don't know what Loyola costs, but I'm sure it's how much do y'all pay a year? Okay, I didn't think it was that expensive. It's 70,000 USD to go to school for 1 year there. This class is less than $1,000. You know what we did too, because I know that's a lot of money still? We signed up with a financing company. So, and then if the financing company doesn't take you, we might finance you. So you cannot say that the opportunity wasn't there. You cannot say that it was too hard. You cannot say that no one sat and explained it to you. We are all volunteers here. All these people are super busy. Her son's getting married tomorrow. Obviously she has a family to go to. This young man just got married apparently and, has a beautiful wife here. But they're all here because they care. They're all here because they want to pour. This is our way of giving back. We're so blessed to be in this business, in this career. So if you have questions about career night, there's a team waiting next door. Classes are only on Saturdays. Because I'm the owner of Real Estate School of Chicago. I built it for the working class person. I built it for the students. So you can go to work, you go to school Monday through Friday. And if you work on Saturdays, then go tell your boss that you'll work on Sunday. It's only Saturdays from 9 to 5, 7 days, that you get a chance to sit for the exam. Once you sit for the exam, then you have the right to go work for a real estate company. And you don't even have to work for us. If you decide to work for us, then you can talk to any of these agents that invited you, give you a tour, and then we get you rock and rolling. Realty Chicago didn't have everything that we offer now. That's why we have Realty of America. We have 60 trainings every single month. We have some of the biggest producers in the country that are closing 50 million, 100 million, 200 million a year. So if you want mentors, you want people that look like you want people that are young, you want people that are old, all walks of life. There's a lady over there that she will be speaking on this stage tomorrow. Hopefully I don't mess up your numbers. Is it 400 million? Come on this way. She's actually from Texas, Everything's bigger in Texas, right? Here, come on in. Ashley, come this way too. Ashley flies every single week from Dallas, Texas to Chicago to have this show live from this very space. Come on. Production numbers, the whole.
Okay. 650 transactions, 190 million. I'm a first generation immigrant as well. Moved to this country in 2004. I got my license in 2005. Actually, I'm going to give away a little bit of the story. Didn't know how to drive, didn't have money to go to school, so that's very generous of you to offer that. As soon as I collected enough money doing a part-time job, I ran to real estate school, got my license, and started and never looked back. So almost 20 years.
So if y'all want to hear the story tomorrow at 11 a.m. right here, and it does. What does it cost? When y'all charge, what do you charge to the show? Zero. So there, we run, man. That's another show we have, and we bring a top producer flown in every single week right here to bring value to our agents. So if you want it, you gotta go ahead. Thank you so much. And then I'll end it with this, because I love what she said. She said this: I got a part-time job to get my money for the school. So look, Bad Bunny comes to town. Y'all don't care if y'all don't got no money. Y'all will ask Grandmasita for the money. You will ask your mom, and your mom's like, all right? Because we don't say no to our kids. So I don't care what you have going on in your life. If you want to change your life, it is literally available here. So go ask your mom, your dad, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your grandma, whoever you got to ask. Go sell something that you don't need. Pay for your classes. Show up. And then we have the best mentors in town. Thank you for coming.